Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. Today we will go over the patch notes for PTS Phase 2, which will start tomorrow and it will last till the 1st of September. We have a lot of things to cover, so let's start off with the most important ones. In my opinion, that's of course the gear. The new gear set, Tipping Scales, receives a huge buff. Shooting builds stacks to a max of 50. Each stacks provides 0.5% weapon handling, which is the exact same way the gear set was in the first PTS phase, but now they have increased the critical hit damage from 2% per stack to 4%. That's the base talent. Moving on to the backpack, we see another buff. Increase the critical hit damage received per stack from 4% to 7%. The backpack used to increase your critical hit damage received per stack from 2% to 4%. So this almost doubled. And if we do some basic math here, as you can see, the way it was before, we have 75 stacks because that's the max amount of stacks you can get. The chest piece, gives you another 25 stacks. So you go 75 times 4. That's 300% critical hit damage. That's the number that you used to get with the PTS Phase 1. And now if you do 70 times 7 equals 525% critical hit damage. This is a huge buff. This is something that the big majority of the player base requested on the PTS. I wasn't one of those people. I thought that the gear set was already at a very, very good point where it stands in the PTS Phase 1. However, the majority of the community, as well as the developers, seem to think that a little buff was needed, and I'm happy for it. I never said I didn't want a buff. I said that it didn't need a buff, but now that they buffed it, the weapon, the gear set is actually extremely powerful. They've also stated that they recognize the core purpose of this new gear set, which is the tipping scales, and they're saying that that core purpose is to support LMGs and high sustained damage. We want to reinforce the identity without pushing it too close to assault rifle builds, and that's a response to a lot of people comparing it to Striker and saying that it falls short. Of course it would fall short because Striker is the most overpowerful build in the entire game. The developers are pretty much saying that we're happy with having a gear set that's not as strong as Striker and other assault rifle gear sets, and I'm completely agreeing with them. Moving on to the biggest change in my opinion, and the one that I'm definitely most excited about. As you can see, we need to go to the patch notes of Phase 1 in order to make this easier. If we go to the Overdog Exotic Gloves, we see that it has a talent called Weakest Link. What that does is it amplifies weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemies within the tier hierarchy. Tier 1 are Hunter, Rogues, blah blah blah. Tier 2, Support, Engineers, Bodyguards, and Tier 3, any other enemy or skill proxy. That meant that when you were shooting Tier 3 enemies and you had your gloves equipped, you would be dealing an amplified weapon damage by 30% to those enemies. Now, that on paper sounds great, however, very soon you realize that there will be times where, you won't have any enemies that are in the third tier, in Tier 3, which means that the exotic will be completely useless. Why should you use it? Well, the same went for the sniper. The sniper has the exact same talent, but it is applied to Tier 1 enemies. And my suggestion back then was that they would need to rework this in order to make it actually viable and potentially change the meta to take into consideration the tier of enemies you have in front of you. So if in front of you, you have only Tier 1 and Tier 2 enemies, the gloves should be applied to those Tier 1 enemies, because at that moment, at that gunfight, at that encounter you're in, Tier 2 are the lowest tier enemies, right? Well, that's exactly what they did, and I'm so happy they did that because it shifts the meta in an extremely important way, and I'll tell you what I mean in a second here. But as you can see here, the talent is this: amplifies weapon damage by 30% to the lowest ranking enemies currently in combat. That's the change that they did. The bold letters are the change. They added exactly what I thought should be added to the game. And when we go to the sniper rifle, we see the exact same change. currently in combat. That means that if you have tier 1 and tier 2 enemies in front of you, tier 1 enemies will be affected by the exotic sniper rifle, and tier 2 enemies will be affected by the exotic gloves. This is extremely good news, because once we're able to, memorize the tier of enemies, so in front of you, tier 1, you have anything that can be considered, pretty tanky. You have hunters, you have rogues, you have tanks, that kind of things, right? However, tier 2 and tier 3, I think, are easier to mix up. So once we're able to figure out let me put my phone on silent here. Once we're able to figure out exactly what its enemy is, what tier they are, when you start a control point where it has tier 2 and tier 3 enemies, you can prioritize. Let's say you only have equipped the gloves, you will be able to prioritize the tier 3 enemies, take them all down with the amplified weapon damage, and as soon as there are no tier 3 enemies in front of you anymore, they're all dead, then tier 2 enemies will become the lowest ranking enemies. So then the gloves should be applied to them as well. And what I want to test out is, can both the exotic gloves and the exotic sniper rifle be applied to the same enemy? So what if we have only a tier 2 enemy in front of us? Will the 125% amplified weapon damage from the sniper and the extra 30% from the gloves be combined to a huge 155% amplified weapon damage when we shoot to that enemy? That will be extremely, extremely huge. Revolving the brand set, the second brand set bonus, which used to be, let me take a look right here, I think it was skill efficiency. Yes, the Urban Lookout brand set, 2-piece bonus gives you 5% skill efficiency. That has been changed. It now offers you 30% skill duration. It's a brand set that I will probably never play with, so, I don't really care, whatever. Let's go into maneuvers. Do we got any other huge changes? Oh yeah, the new weapon talent, Soft Spot, its normal version, it's getting a buff to 27% weapon damage for 15 seconds once you destroy a weak point. That used to be 19, I want to say. Let me actually check. That was 24. So no, there we go. It was 19. Yeah, I was correct. So it was 19% weapon damage, the normal version, and 24 the perfect version. Now it's 27 and 32. Nice little buff. This talent will be will be used a lot, especially with a Tinker Mask. Moving on to, I think I'm missing something here. Yeah, the exotic pistol, the Tempest. They pretty much came out and said that they're happy with how it works. For those of you who don't know what that is, let me actually go over it real quick. This is the new exotic pistol. It's fully automatic and deals 25% amplified damage for 20 seconds after your shield gets broken. It has 50% stability, 15% critical hit chance. A lot of people suggested that this here should be removed. Not the amplified weapon damage, but the shield getting broken. They don't want that at all. Or they wanted the debuff from your shield getting broken to be removed, because once the shield breaks, you're kind of dizzy, you're kind of confused, so for 2-3 seconds you can't shoot, and people suggested that that would be addressed. However, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with it really, because the side effect of your shield being broken, lasts only 2 to 3 seconds. Meanwhile, this weapon buff lasts for 20 seconds. So I think it's okay, really. Let's go over maneuvers. Maneuvers are now available to test in the second phase of the Year 7 Season 2 PTS. There are optional challenges that you can take on between capture control points during a retaliation. Each maneuver is the same for every player participating in that retaliation, there we go. But you must complete it individually to earn the reward. Completing a maneuver adds extra time to your retaker timer, which can make the difference between reclaiming the zone or running out of time. Maneuvers change every time you capture a control point, whether or not you have completed the current one. You never have to complete them to finish a retaliation, but they give you another way to manage the clock, especially if your group is cutting it close. However, be aware that time can also work against you. If you go down during retaliation, you lose some of the remaining timers, so every opportunity to gain more time matters. Okay, pretty much maneuvers weren't in the first phase because they weren't ready, if I remember correctly. We will have to test them out tomorrow and see how they work. Pretty much the way I understand this is that in between capturing control points, you will have an extra objective that you can now complete. If you do that, you will get some extra time. It's okay, whatever. Now let's see some of the feedback and the changes that are taking place with Retaliation. The Pact has been one of the most anticipated seasons for our dev team, as it introduces one of our favorite mechanics, Retaliation. Our goal was clear: to bring new endgame content with high replayability, new ways to interact with the open world, and a fresh path for farming exotics. After reviewing community feedback and the internal data, we are happy to see that the reception has been largely positive and aligned with the experience we aim to deliver. Of course, there is always room for improvement, and we're making a few adjustments to address some of the feedback we received. For example, we will tweak the global modifier balance to make sure that players can easily benefit from controlling named zones when starting from the ground. Also, now we will finally introduce the maneuvers feature, allowing players to better manage their risk-reward ratio throughout the retaliation time. We also noticed that many players had trouble triggering retaliation due to the slow fill rate of the agitation meter. We have revised the criteria of how it fills and made sure that your disruptions now cause the double of the original impact to the future's activation. So basically, any activity you do now fills the meter for the double amount. After all, we designed this feature to be played, and making it hard to trigger would be against that intent. Retaliation upcoming changes in Year 7 Season 2. New daily project. Added a daily project that once completed instantly fills a faction's retaliation bar to 100%, allowing you to quickly start it. So basically, you have a way to do one retaliation every single day guaranteed. And of course, as we already said, agitation values for retaliation activities on hero actively have been doubled. Now, I think that was all of it. We covered everything. What I think is the most important part here, other than of course the great changes that we are gonna get, and I think this is the final patch notes for how season 2 will launch. I don't think that there will be any extra changes to the gear set or the exotics, especially exotics. I wasn't expecting them to make this change currently in combat. It's actually huge, and once they made it, I'm pretty sure that they will not take it back. Maybe tipping scales turns out to be a little bit too powerful now. We will see. But again, I think that's the final form of the gear, at least, that we're gonna get in season 2. But what's the greatest thing about this PTS, if you want my opinion, really, is that if you go... Let me actually show you guys. I won't show you because Discord has crashed again, but I want to show you the feedback on the PTS Discord. They have answered like 90% of everything that was asked by them, the developers. The people complain about how fast the retaliation can happen. They have answered to that. They have improved the speed. So they fixed that. People complained about the tipping scales, not complained, but offered their feedback and suggested that tipping scales should be improved. They did that. Save spot weapon talent, they improved that. Same goes for... Where is it? Yeah, same goes for the Overdog exotic gloves and the Shroud sniper rifle. The only thing that they didn't agree with the player or the player's feedback was the Tempest exotic pistol, and I think they were right not to agree with them, if I'm being quite honest. The pistol is already very unique, and you know, it offers something no other pistol offers. So you know, I'm extremely happy to see the developers actually listening and reading all the feedback posts, and we're talking about hundreds of posts on the PTS, and you know, listening to the community and just giving what we want. So yeah, great news, guys. Great news. Let me know down below in the comment section your thoughts, guys. Are you happy with these new changes on the phase 2 of PTS? Are you going to testing out things? Obviously, something I want to mention, because I always get asked in every live stream or video or whatever I might be doing. No, you will not be able to play the PTS on your Xbox or on your PlayStation. PTS is only available through Ubisoft Connect on the PC. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Bye bye.